Hey everybody, how you doing? It's Bruce here, prime time, traveling with Bruce. How are you today? For the second time, welcome back. For those of you who joined me earlier today, this is the first time I've ever done an 8 o'clock Eastern Time live prime time telecast, traveling with Bruce. Normally I'm on at 5 o'clock every day, and I am Monday to Friday. I'm on 5 o'clock every day, but today I'm on at excuse me one second. I'm on at 8 o'clock Tuesdays and Thursdays to give you folks on the East Coast a chance to catch up with me after work and or in the Central Time Zone or Mountain Time Zone. Or hey, if you're from Los Angeles or anywhere else, welcome to Traveling with Bruce. I'm Bruce, Traveling with Bruce. I run a little channel here that loves talking about cruise ships, going on vacations, getting great cruise deals, constantly adjusting his camera. Don't mind me, folks. I'm just trying to get the lighting just right. I'm in Creston, British Columbia. I'm located 3 miles north of the Idaho border. Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, 2 hours, 20 minutes by car away, about 2 hours, 30 minutes to Spokane. That's kind of where I am here in British Columbia in Canada. And it's winter. Here it's winter. You folks who are watching me are probably from the US and or Canada, but I know I have viewers from around the world, depending on the time of day or night, and I appreciate all of you being here. It's great having you. Love talking about cruise ships, cruise ship deals, getting deals, finding great offers on cruises, and then we talk about the cruise business as a whole. I and my viewers, we talk about cruise ships that are being built, ships that have just come out, what you can do on a cruise, how you can save money on a cruise, or rumors about what's going on out there. I started my channel in August 2017. It's 6.5 months that this channel has been running. I had no sponsorship, no viewers, no videos, no experience. Perfect candidate to go onto YouTube. And I started the channel gung ho and thought I'll just put content out there. I'm going to talk about my travels. I got a few other stories. I've done a playlist called "So I Know You Like a Good Story," and there's some tall tales in there. You may not believe them, but they're true stories. After about 3 months of doing that, from August, September, October, I hit 10,000 views, and I became a monetized YouTuber. And my plan was to give it a year, give this project my full-time attention, see how far I can take this channel in the first year. I put in about 12 to 14 hours a day, for those of you who don't know. And by December the 13th, I hit 100 subscribers. That was the first 100. The channel started to pick up a little bit of traction. Had 150 by the 26th of December, Boxing Day. And in early January, about the 17th of January, I was at 200 and about 225 subscribers when YouTube made an announcement. And YouTube decided, with all the controversy around some of their creators and their advertising issues and stuff, they wanted to tighten the requirements to be monetized and to be a full-time YouTuber, to really be in the family. And they wanted to kind of weed out some of the troublemakers. Great idea. Love that. And they came up with a couple of new requirements. If you want to be monetized and stay monetized, we're going to give you 30 days to reach these certain targets. And if you can reach these two main targets, you can stay in the family, and you'll be a monetized channel, and we're going to move forward as a team. But if you're short of that, you'll just have to work your way up to these new standards. And if you're already at these higher levels, but you've been a bad person, we're going to kick you out. And advertisers love to hear that. I love to hear that. What's the deal? Well, you have to have 4,000 hours of watch time in a calendar year from 20th of February, just a few days ago, going back a year. Luckily for me, I was zooming in on about 3,400 hours just when this announcement came out, and I did the math quickly, and I went, "Oh, I'll have 8,000 hours by the time February 20th rolls around. The time isn't going to be a problem. I can talk." These live streams, I can talk. So the second requirement, 1,000 subscribers. You have to have 1,000 subscribers to stay in the program. You have to have both the 4,000 hours and the 1,000 subscribers. And I had 225. And I thought, oh boy, by the end of February, I was hoping to hit about 700 or 800. And then in March, I figured I'd hit about 12 to 1,500. You know, the way the analytics were going, the way the channel was coming on. But 1,000 in 30 days, well, the launch was on. I put the word out to all of my viewers, all of my existing subscribers. and anyone that was silly enough to bump into me on the street, and we started growing subscribers rather quickly, and we got up to 500 within about 10 days, and we were halfway there, and then the countdown was on, and the deal was last week Monday was the 19th of February, and that's the day we hit 1,000 subscribers. We did a subscribe-a-thon on this channel. Impromptu as it was, started at 5 Eastern, didn't get off the air until about, 7:30 Eastern, and we hit 1,000 subscribers on the air. My viewers wouldn't let me leave until we did it. We did the big countdown. That was a lot of fun. It was stressful, but we did it. And today, I'm happy to report, I was at 1,160 odd subscribers yesterday. I'm now at 1,174, 1,175 right now. We've added another 174 on top of the minimum requirement. And here we are coming to the end of the month, and I'm very proud of my channel. I'm grateful to all of you out there. I'm grateful to all of my friends and relatives and anyone else. And I know I've had viewers who have just gone the extra mile. I've had some subscribers of mine who have been sharing me on Facebook, their own Facebook pages. I've been getting retweets from friends of mine, viewers of mine. I've been getting Instagram exposure, and I welcome it, and I encourage all I can get, because even now, we want to keep this channel growing at the fastest pace possible to never again get caught in this new rule change if it ever happens down the road. I want to stay in the family and grow. The only bad news for us, or for me, is that I did meet the requirements of 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours in time to meet the deadline. But the catch is, and there's always a catch, the catch is that you're demonetized regardless, even if you hit those parameters, because I didn't have 4,000 hours of watch time back in January when they announced this change, and I didn't have 1,000 subscribers back in January. So the deal was you had until February the 20th to get there, and then you would be immediately reviewed for monetization. In other words, I'm in the front of the line for a review, so I was demonetized a week ago today, and I'm in effect not being paid to do this. And I will be remonetized when they get around to remonetizing us. And I think they're dealing with 1 million to 2 million channels in my position right now, in my situation. There's a lot of us. And I'm not sure how they're doing it. I don't know if it's all by hand, like manual, or part of the computer programs, or doing artificial intelligence on it. I have no idea. I couldn't tell you. I heard today through a vlog, and I'm trying to get some information. There's no 800 number I can call for help. They're telling viewer or channels like me, creators like me, they're saying anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks could be before you're remonetized, if you qualify for remonetization. Now, I'm convinced 99.9% I'm certainly qualified for remonetization. Never had an issue with the YouTube people. Never had any strikes against me for being bad. Never had any warning letters. It's all been green lights. Everything's fine. They like what I'm doing. I feel that I'm a PG-rated type channel. I have a lot of people who listen to my live streams every day, actually on their cars. They listen to me on their headphones. They listen to me when they're cooking dinner at home, and I'm on the television, and the kids are running around the house, and we have that kind of a channel, and I'm very proud of that. And I'm thankful that I'm welcome into your homes. So I'm sure I'll be remonetized. The problem is, I think that the weight of the work in front of the YouTube people, who are, I'm sure, going 24/7 on this, is just so heavy that it could be as much as a month. So I only have one source of income left, and that is on my live streams, on this live chat. You'll notice there's a $ down at the bottom where you're typing in messages to say hi to me. If you are interested in this, I would welcome it, but you're not obligated to, but I'd love it if you did. You can do what's called a super chat, or what I call the tip jar, where you can make a donation to the creator. $1, $2, $5, $3, whatever amount you want, $1,000, whatever you want. And I've had a number of viewers do that, and I've been so appreciative of it, because it helps compensate me for this complete shutdown of revenue. The oddity, the frustrating thing is that the day before I got demonetized, I had my best day on the advertising side. And it turned out that it was the highest amount I'd ever made on the advertising side of the YouTube equation. And the next day I was shut down, like everybody else. So I kind of am going, yeah, isn't that something? Isn't that the way it always goes? It just one thing happens and then something else goes the other direction. So that's the way it is. So anyway, that's enough about that. I'm not going to mention that anymore. If anyone does do a super chat, I will say thank you. I will acknowledge it because I'll see it on my screen. There'll be a colored bar showing up on the chat with a dollar amount to it, and I thank you very much. Now, what else can I tell you about the channel? I think I'm up to speed on all of that. I usually, if you're new to this, I will say to my viewers, hey, tell me where you're watching me from. What's your high temperature today? Make me jealous. Here in Creston, I had a sunny day here, gorgeous sunny day. We hit about 36 degrees. I thought we were going to 40. And then the clouds moved in and it covered everything. We went back to the freezing mark. And right now, as I'm talking to you, we got snow. We got a system that just came right in, took the sunshine away, and we're in snow. It's getting dark now outside here in Creston, and it's winter. What can I say? So we're about 30 degrees. Let's see who's here, and let me say hi to everybody who's joined me in my first ever Traveling with Bruce primetime show. How about that? Wes Morrison, excited to watch you again. Hey, Wes, welcome back from West Braunfels, Texas. I know that's where you're watching me from. Joshua Watson, hi, Bruce. Heather Young, hello. Christine is here, yay, she says. Anne-Marie Pazarati, hi, Bruce. Love this time. Thanks so much, Anne-Marie. Love to have you here. Gina Wells-Hulse, hi, Bruce, and everyone else. Gina, how are you? It's nice to have you back. Randy Lucas, hi from Paradise, California. High of 58 degrees. Sunny today. Love the later show. Thank you so much for joining me, Randy. You're from Paradise. It's nice. Pamela Jordan, hello again. I say hello again to you too. George McCrower, darker and cooler than earlier, the villages in Florida. Welcome back, George. Gina Wells saying you did it. My son says he's very proud to be your 1,000 subscriber. I know, Gina, you're in the Cayman Islands, and I think he is too. I think you were telling me, and I know you were right in there. He was right in there, subscribing right at the height of it, and he likely could have been the 1,000. So that's fantastic. I think it's great. I used to live in the Caymans, so I think that's fantastic. Christine is saying that's so cool, Gina. George Padron, hello, Bruce from Miami, Florida, close to Port Miami and the cruise ships. Fantastic. You'll obviously note all the activity that goes on there every day. Sylvan Forrest, hey again, Bruce. I think this time I like this time slot. He says cigars are smoked, dinner is over. We're sitting outside, very pleasant, 1,600 miles south of the Canadian border in Delray Beach, Florida. Sylvan, I guess the only thing now is I shouldn't stay on too long because it'll be past your bedtime. So I got to be mindful of that, not to go too many hours. Welcome back, Sylvan. Great to have you. Crystal Johnson saying, hello, Mr. Bruce. I'm back. Thanks, Christine, for coming back again. Christine says it got up to 60 degrees in Coleman, Michigan today. Sucked to be stuck inside working. Yeah, I guess. Joshua Watson has just sent me $2 on Super Chat. Thanks, Joshua. I appreciate that so much. Thank you very much. It all helps, believe me. It just helps make up for the lack of anything from the YouTube side right now. Scott Batchley is saying, hi, Bruce, I'm back too. Welcome back, Scott. It's great to have you here and great to have you around. Earlier today, as you folks know, we were a number of you who were here this morning, earlier today, and we talked about a number of topics. One thing I didn't mention today is I came across a story earlier today, and I just kind of read up on it in the last hour while I was between shows here. And the story goes, it's about a company that's trying to launch river cruising ships in the United States. A lot of people have been wondering, why aren't there just a whole pile of river cruise companies in the U.S.? Because in the wintertime you can fly maybe the southern Mississippi, or at least be seasonal at the very least. But there might be certain rivers, certainly in the spring, summer, and fall, that would be ideal for river cruising. And there's a ship called American Cruise Lines that sort of has been launched. It's kind of been launched in the last probably year or so. They've been organizing themselves. They built their first river cruise ship, completed it, and they're now building a second ship. And these are river cruise ships that are very familiar to those of you who've sailed on a river cruise in Europe on Avalon or on Viking cruise or Uniglobe. And they look long and low, and they hold about 200 passengers, 3 or 4 levels high. and that's what they built here. They built one called the American Song, and it's a new ship. It will hit the water officially with passengers October this year, 2018. Will hold 200 guests. I just noticed on my chat, Christine has sent $5 in on Super Chat. Thank you so much, Christine. That's fantastic. So happy for that. Thank you very much. Charles Jordan's back again too. Hi, Charles. How are you? Thanks again, you guys, for helping me out with these super chats. You know how much I appreciate it. I do. I really do. The second ship on this for this American Cruise Lines company, it's going to be built for 2020 delivery. So 2 years from now. Looks like it takes about 2 years. The actual builder of the ships is the actual operator of the ships as well. And that's kind of answers my question that I had as to why aren't there more cruise lines in the United States? Why aren't there cruise lines like there are in Europe? And I think I know why. If this builder was building this ship for a third party, he would charge a markup, obviously, on top of the cost of the ship, a larger markup, and that might make the ship unaffordable and uneconomic with 195 to 200 passengers plying the U.S. waterways. Because the issue with all companies, any company wanting to do river cruises in the United States and only the United States, which of course would be the case in this type of setup, you're talking about an all-American crew. You're talking about American servers, the folks cleaning the rooms, doing the laundry facility work, the maintenance crew on board. You cannot bring in Filipino workers and Indonesian workers and do what the large cruise ship companies are doing, like Carnival, Holland America, Princess, Cunard, Royal Caribbean, Celebrity, Norwegian, all the, even the luxury lines, they will have, let's say, European trained captains, first officers, senior engineering staff, highly trained, highly qualified, even Americans. They'll have some Americans working, but in the big scheme of things, with the say 1,700 crew, you might have 200 top-notch managers managing the other 1,500, and those 1,500 folks are from the third world, and they're not being paid near what they would be paid if they were American-based green card holders or American citizens working the ships. On the river cruise, you do have to have full-blown American workers, so you're going to have minimum wage rules. You may have along the Mississippi, you're going up and down several states, and depending on whether you pull in or not on a port stop at a certain state, you may have certain state rules, certain state labor laws you have to adhere to. It's a complicated mess is what it is. It's an absolute nightmare. And I can see here where an American shipbuilder is launching their own cruise company because they can build the ship at, let's say, internal cost, and then, put the ship out and see what gives. I don't know if it'll be successful. I mean, I just don't know. Can the ships ply the waters year-round? Will Americans cruise river cruises between November and February, March? Those 4 critical months, or will this line go only for 8 months of the year and then shut down and lay everybody off, and then hope to hire everybody back for another 8-month season? I don't know how this is going to go. So we're going to find out late this year in October. But if they're saying the ship is ready for October to start sailing on the river, whichever rivers they're going to go on, they're starting to cruise in November. So are they going year round? I'm not interested in grabbing a cruise from Cincinnati down to Pittsburgh in December. I think that'd be kind of cold. Now, wintertime with all the Christmas lights, it might be pretty, but come January, February, we got some serious storms up there. So I don't know how this is going to play. Will the ships be okay if they're down in Louisiana and doing New Orleans and coming up to Shreveport and maybe up as high as Memphis? Maybe not. I don't know. I would imagine that back in the day, in the 1800s, when steamships, paddle steamers, ruled the rivers of the Americas, a lot of them did go year round. And so maybe, maybe there's something to it. Of course, these modern ships will have modern insulation, will have the modern heating systems, will have air conditioning systems for the hot days, and maybe they're capable of handling the whole deal. So we'll have to see how this works itself out. Anyway, no schedule has been released yet for where they're going to cruise or exactly when, and no pricing either. So we have no idea what this will be like. But I will kind of guess that you and I, if you've looked at it, if you ever looked at a quote for a river cruise on the Danube or the Rhine River in Europe, on 6 or 7 of these different cruise lines, they're not cheap. We're talking 300, 400, 500 a day per person for these river cruises in Europe. So maybe the good news is that the American line can kind of say, well, it's 400 a day in Europe and it's 350 a day here, but here's what you get for your money. I don't know how that's going to play out. So we'll have to see how this goes. I did see a comment here from Ian Spencer, Sarasota, Florida. How are you, Ian? Welcome. And then Charles Jordan is saying, too many hydroelectric dams across rivers, maybe. That's true. But the barge traffic on the Mississippi is quite long and extensive, right up to St. Louis, I'm sure, and beyond. So, in the summertime, I can see these riverboats going way up into, the northern half of the U.S. But in the fall and the winter, everyone sort of falls back down to the south. The other concern I have is September, October every year, hurricane season. What happens? Our cruise is going to be canceled because of hurricane season. If a storm is threatening New Orleans, or threatening even 100 miles away from New Orleans, but all that rain is 400 miles around the epicenter of that hurricane, you may find that the lower 500 miles of the Mississippi are just going to be drowning in torrential rainstorms. Not much of an enjoyable cruise to be on a river cruise if that's the week you're booked, right? So we're going to have to see how this plays out. This is something interesting, but it's a multi-million-dollar gamble by this company, and I kind of wonder, wow, if it doesn't work, what do you do with these ships? Can you sell the ship to a European line and have it shipped all the way to Europe and have it ply the river there? I don't know. Is it up to pollution standards for the European continent going forward? It may not be compliant with emission standards that are happening over there. So I don't know. This is a story that crossed my eyes the other day, just this morning, and I thought, I'll look into it and see what I think, and get your opinions on it too. It would be great. But we'll find out, I think, as time goes on, just kind of what's happening and what are we going to be looking at. Okay, let's say Charles Jordan saying, instead of laying people off, they could cruise the ports around the Gulf, up and down the east and west coast to cities that are larger cruise lines won't go. Yeah, the problem though is, Charles, I think it's the waterways in question. These ships are very long and very low. They have a very low bow for waves, and even the Gulf of Mexico could be too rough, going too much of this sideways action, especially if you're going this way and the waves are coming across this way. You're going to have this tilting motion, and you haven't got much leeway. On the Mississippi, you're not running into anything serious like that, and so it's pretty smooth and pretty slow going. These ships are not designed to go very quickly. They don't really have stabilizers like ocean-going vessels would. And then, of course, you need to provision the vessel maybe more often than you would on a cruise ship, because you just don't have the hold space below like you do on a cruise liner. You might be able to have, you could have 20 days of food on board a cruise ship to go across, from Sydney, Australia to Los Angeles. You can have that much food on board. You wouldn't have to stop if you didn't want to. Mind you, if they went nonstop on a direct line, they could do it in a week. But with a nice 15-day leisurely cruise, 21-day cruise, you might not worry about most of the provisions other than local provisions on the way. With a riverboat cruise ship, you may have to restock it more often. And I think in Europe, where you have stops in Budapest and Vienna and all these towns and cities along the various rivers. I think that these river cruise ships are probably re-provisioning part of their needs, probably every second day, every third day. And I don't know if they have water making systems on board either. They may well stop for fresh water at the next stop while passengers are out on a 6-hour, tour, and the ship is loading up on fresh water for the next 24, 48 hours, unloading the black water into the local sewage system through the pier that they're docked at. Whereas a cruise ship can retain that. They have literally their own sewage treatment plant on board the cruise ship down below, and they're already filtering the water out in 3 or 4 stages. And by the time they get back to port, the solid waste that they have to offload is a small fraction of the original waste that they had. But that's just modern day cruise ships and the size of the mechanics that you can have down there. Not that I'm an expert down below necessarily, but I've watched videos. Wes Morrison saying they could do the international. Okay, and then Wes Morrison, they could do the intercoastal waterway from Texas to Florida, again, depending on the year. Yeah, time of the year for sure. Not the winter, of course. Charles Jordan, rock and roll cruise, rock and roll, laugh out loud. Yeah, yeah, that won't be fun. I'll tell you. Yeah, that would be a little rough, right? Christina saying I'd go on a rock and roll cruise. There you go. But I don't think I'd be on this boat. Oh man, I think I think it's fantastic that if you can go from say Memphis all the way down to New Orleans or the other way back. Oh, that'd be a fantastic cruise. You make that a 10-day cruise, a 1-week cruise. Wow, the heart of the summertime. It's gonna be nice and hot, humid, of course. So you're gonna be in very light clothing, shorts and flip flops, and your cabin is air conditioned, so you'll be cool at night. Fantastic, and stopping at various spots along the way, learning all about the Mississippi, the way it used to be when steamships plied the Mississippi by the hundreds, tons and tons of them. That would be a really cool experience to have. But other times of the year, it might not be as enjoyable. And, with the leaves gone off the trees, maybe not as pretty. Now, steamships, of course, plied the Mississippi in the 1800s because there was no rail dependable and of course, there were no cars and highways. So that was the form of transportation in the heart of America to get from the northern part of the U.S. all the way down to the Gulf Coast. That's how you did it. And of course, goods for export from the United States to Europe or the Caribbean came through the Mississippi, and of course, imports same way all the way up. And so that's why the Mississippi is what it is, and it's been re-engineered by mankind ever since to accommodate heavy-duty barge traffic. And there you go. But for river cruising, obviously, been a long, long time for heavy-duty river cruising. Now, I know there are some paddle ships now that do offer cruises on the Mississippi. Some are day trips, some are short-term trips. This will be sort of the first entity that really will tackle it as a real going concern. And the issue, of course, is how much they spent to build the ship, how much it'll cost to run it, maintain it, and then, of course, what can you get for fares to pay it, and will it be necessary for passengers who are cruising, say, 8 months of the year to pay enough money so that the ship can be paid for all 52 weeks of the year? That might make the ship just as expensive as the European vessels, and that's the big question that we all have: is how much is it going to cost? The concept sounds great, but is it affordable, or is it only going to be really a super elite traveler that's going to be able to afford it? Because you're looking at $1,000 a night, a room, or more to do it. I don't know. We're going to find out eventually. Wes is saying the American Steamboat Company already travels the Mississippi. Yep, that's one of them. Charles Jordan, Wes, don't forget the intercoastal waterways up and down the Florida coast. See, that's the other one as well. And again, it's a matter of hurricane season, weather systems, and temperature. But yeah, Florida, if it's warm enough, you can do it in the winter too, right? Absolutely. Good point, Charles. West of Sand. So yeah, we'll have to see how this sort of plays itself out as we go forward. I'm sure we'll hear a lot about it. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of press about this story. The company, if they're savvy enough, they'll have a publicity officer who will be contacting the networks when it's time to launch the first cruise, and they'll try to get maybe like Good Morning America on board for a morning or a day, or cruising, the first week on the Mississippi, revisiting these great, Confederate cities and Union cities from way back when America was young. We'll have to see how that all comes out. A couple other things I will mention. I did mention earlier today, and for those of you who know this, I'm sorry, but for some of you who don't, Carnival announced today that their subsidiary line, Aida Cruising, which specializes in German tourists in Europe, Aida Cruises runs cruise ships that are generally for German tourists, predominantly German language service, although they also speak English. If you ever were on an Aida cruise, you'd have no trouble figuring out what's going on. There's a lot of folks who speak English as well. But Aida is growing so quickly and is so popular with German tourists that they're adding ships, and they just ordered another or a third version of a 5,000 odd passenger ocean liner that is going to be operating on liquid natural gas. This will be the third in a row. The first one, the Aida Nova, is going to be delivered to Aida Cruising this December 2019. So not this December, but next December. And then 2021 will come the second ship, and the one they announced today will be ready on 2023. So Carnival, which owns Aida, is looking ahead 5 years already for ship orders. They are in effect tying up the ship builder I believe in Germany for 5 years for advance orders, which makes it incredibly difficult for anyone else to get into the cruise business. Richard Branson wants to launch at least one or more ships under his Virgin brand. Ritz-Carlton wants to bring out a high-end cruise ship under their brand, and they're having to get their ships built, somewhere else. They can't get it done at this one shipyard. The shipyards in France, there's a shipyard in France that's being used by Royal Caribbean for the mega ships that we see coming out. Symphony of the Seas is about to be released, another month or two. And other ship builders are tied up with Norwegian and other operators. And so Chinese shipbuilding yards are being called upon, Taiwan and other countries as well. And because the business is growing so quickly at 5 to 7% a year, all cruise lines want to expand their fleets. And this year, 2018, 27 cruise ships will be delivered to the cruise business. 27 ships. Next year, I'm sure it'll be just as many. And going forward, there are quite a number of ships on order. I did note today that Carnival, being the largest cruise ship operator on the planet, they have 10 brand names that they operate under. And they have 103 ships right now that they're managing. They have 20 new ships on order between this year and 2023, the next 5 years. It's an average of 4 a year for the next 5 years coming in to Carnival. And I can tell you that 3 years from now, they'll still have 20 coming in for the next 5-year segment. So it'll be 4 a year for quite some time, from what all indications are at the moment. Now, will Carnival retire older ships to bring in the newer ships is a question. But some of you have noted, and I've seen it, that some of these older ships, like the Elation that was built in 1990, 91, the ships that were built in the early 90s, they're not retiring these ships. Carnival is bringing them into dry dock. They're spending upwards of $50 to $100 million on these ships to retrofit them, and they're adding the giant movie screen by the pool deck. That'll cost millions of bucks. They're adding full-blown water slides, 2 tubes, that are intertwining each other like spaghetti. Millions and millions of dollars. They're adding all kinds of pumping systems, all kinds of electrical systems to handle the increase in load for all these added services. They're taking ships, again, like the Elation and others, they're adding balconies to some of these ships. They're finding ways to take the back of the ship, which used to be just a solid piece like this, with a couple of, maybe a walkway here. They're now cutting out entire sections of the back of the ship and literally slapping in balconies, pre-assembled balconies, by re-engineering the inside of the back end of the ship on the upper decks, and adding 35, 40 suites, all balcony suites. Money, money, money. Top dollar for these suites. They are really spending the money because they figured out, number one, we can't get 6 ships a year built. We can only get the 4. And so we need all the ships we've got. And we might as well take the old ones, upgrade them with all the new toys for the kids, and keep it an action place. Add as many balconies and rooms as we can, upgrade the quality of the rooms, and we can charge $50 a cruise more. And that's 52 times 50, per room, multiply it out, it's millions more dollars. And that's how they justify the $50 to $100 million build out, because they're figuring this ship is good for another 10, 15 years. That means we need to get out of that ship $6-7 million a year to pay for it. And we can probably get 12-15 million a year by making these improvements. And this is what's been going on with a number of ships, including now Royal Caribbean. So these cruise lines in third world countries that operate, old former cruise ships that the big cruise lines had and offloaded 15, 20 years ago, none of them are for sale right now. There are really not that many available. And this is making it interesting for the secondary lines out there, the secondary operators, but the main operators, they figured out, boy, in dry dock, it's amazing what we can do. For $3 million a day to rebuild a ship, we can take a ship and completely change its look and design and make it good for another 10 years. Rather than dropping $800 million on a new one, why don't we put $100 million into this old one and give it another 10, 15 years? Not a bad way to go. Just want to check if there's any messages. I'm up to speed. So that was an interesting bit of news that's coming on, and that interesting trends I find in the cruise trade. Like I said, Carnival, 103 ships, 20 on order. Right now they can handle, they have 232,000 cabins. So on any given night, there are almost 500,000 people paying passengers on a Carnival cruise ship every night of the week. That's incredible. I mean, 3.5 million passenger nights a week being handled by Carnival. #1 cruise line on the planet. It's just stunning numbers, absolutely stunning numbers. Other news today, I heard that Princess has gotten aggressive regarding deposits, and they've also gotten aggressive regarding some pricing, and now free tipping. They're offering some cruises, Caribbean, I've heard Alaska, maybe Mediterranean, no tipping required. Something's telling me that either this is just a promotion, or maybe something's up. Maybe the MSCs of the world, not necessarily the seaside, but those mega ships that Royal Caribbean has with all the toys on it. Perhaps Norwegian's latest 3 or 4 new ships, each holding 4,000, 4,200 passengers, are having an effect on the ability of Princess to compete for that last 10% of occupancy. It may well be that Princess has no trouble getting to 90% occupancy, no trouble at all, but the last 10%, they are having a problem. And maybe they're getting aggressive on some of their lines and some of their routes to beef it up a little bit and offer some deals to passengers, get them to come in. I don't know. It's interesting to watch. We'll have to see how this progresses into spring and summer, because it's unusual for that to happen already. Just a thought. What was I going to tell you too? Big mistake to avoid on a cruise. I touched on this on the end of last show. I'm going to mention it kind of at the beginning of this show. One of the biggest mistakes that cruisers, and it can be new cruisers that do this, not necessarily veterans. Those of us who cruise, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 times and more, we kind of know the game now. We kind of know what we like. But there's a lot of folks out there who get all hyped up and get all excited about the fact that they're on a first-time cruise. And why shouldn't they be? They should be thrilled you're on a first-time cruise. But there are folks out there who are pushing themselves too hard, and they're figuring, I gotta have something to do every day on this ship. I don't want to be bored. They don't realize that on a typical sea day, a cruise ship, you've got 110 different things you can do in a 10-hour window. You can't do it all. You cannot physically do every activity that's offered on a cruise ship in a day. Can't do it. And so when it comes to a port day, when they come into port, these new passengers are booking themselves shore excursions, and in some cases they have to be at the assembly area to get ready to leave the ship at 8 in the morning. And if you've got children with you, you're going to have to get up at 6:30, 6:45 to get everybody ready by 8, because you've got to get everybody cleaned up. You got everybody to get dressed. Then you got to get the family over to the breakfast buffet probably, and run through that. Quickly run back to the cabin, gather up what you need for the day, get your hats and sunscreen on and all that, and then make your way down to the gatherings point. It might be the main showroom or ballroom. The problem with this is that a cruise is really meant to be a place, a trip to kind of relax and take it easy and enjoy, rather than making it a military precision type run exercise. Now, for some of those out there, there are folks out there who live for that. They live for that. I'm always active and I'm never sitting around doing nothing. And the kids are going to do it too. Well, great. But then there are others who had a thought that, why don't we take a cruise this time and relax, only to find out we can't relax. We got to get up at 6 a.m. I get up at 6 a.m. to go to work, and I'm getting up at 6:30 just to go on an outing on this cruise ship, because we prepaid for this on the website, 3 months ago. And now we find out, oh my God, we got to get up at 6:15, and I don't want to do it. Sometimes it's best to not do that and do the opposite and book nothing. Be your own tour guide for your own shore excursion. And, the month or two before you're going, why don't you take the time to review where the ship is going to stop at along your cruise, and figure out, hey, we're going to be in St. Thomas on the third day of the cruise, or Saint Martin, or Turks and Caicos, or Cayman Islands. Why don't we book our own getaway, do our own little tour ourselves? Now, it might be as simple as, say, you're in Mazatlan, even in Mexico, on a Mexican Riviera cruise. Mazatlan is a great place to go see by yourself. You don't need a tour with the cruise line. Heck no. You can grab a cab right from the ship, or a free shuttle bus that the ship will offer, take you right to the downtown core, and then from there you walk around and you get yourself one of those ice cream cones they have, or there's a Starbucks if you want, or a bistro privately run. Grab yourself a little drink, people watch for a while, go inside one of the churches, one of the cathedrals, for a little tour there. Or as interesting as, you're landing in Naples, Italy, on a Mediterranean cruise. Get off the ship in Naples. You've already booked yourself a tour privately. You've got a private tour operator coming to the pier to pick you up. And that is a 4-hour tour that you've booked for yourself, maybe with your family, or you're traveling with another couple that you're doing this Mediterranean cruise with, and the four of you have booked this tour online 2 months ago, and you're in a van with the tour guide, and you're going to see pre-arranged spots, perhaps going to see Herculaneum and see the ruins from the Mount Vesuvius eruption back in the early 80s, 72 AD, I believe it was. And you're not in a crowded bus with 60 other passengers. Not that there's anything wrong with being on a cruise tour. I did a cruise tour in Europe, a couple of them with my daughter, loved them. But, there might be a time where here you don't have to get off the ship at 7 in the morning. You're going to meet the tour operator at 10, and you're going to be brought back to the ship by 2:30, even though you've got till 4 to get back. You're back to the ship at 2:30, and you had a wonderful time because you were in a private van, went right to where you're going, and saw what you wanted to see, came back to the ship, stopped maybe for a quick bite to eat somewhere. The tour operator knows where to take you to find some good food if you want to eat locally. and then you're back on board. And it might cost you just as much as the ship tour, or less or more, depending on what kind of a tour you're talking about. But you did it at your leisure, at your time, and you didn't have to get up at 6 a.m. at all. You can relax while everyone else is running around with their heads cut off, trying to get down to that showroom or over to this bar or deck 4 or deck 6 to meet up with their director. You don't have any of that running around to do, and you're not going to be held up because you're part of 50 people, and there are 2 people that are late getting to the meetup point. You're 15 minutes behind schedule already. You haven't even got off the ship yet. Everyone's angry. Well, here it's just the 4 of you. Get off the ship, walk off the gangplank. There's your tour operator right there. Get in the vehicle. You're gone. So that's something to think about, where you can do your own thing or do nothing. San Juan, Puerto Rico, Old Town. There's nothing nicer than walking off a cruise ship in Old Town San Juan and walking around the downtown, the old downtown yourselves. You don't need any tour from anybody. The architecture, the feel of the place, it's not like your hometown. Let me tell you, it'd be just a great time to have on shore. Let's see what we have here. Some points have come in. So Sylvan is saying, get up at 6 a.m. on a cruise. Perish the thought, he says. The ship is the destination for me. I hardly ever go on shore. Do nothing is the order of the day for me. And I commend you for that, because that is another option. When everybody is scrambling to get off the ship and do something, take that time to, why don't you head over to the spa? They may have massages for half price, or you can get a manicure, get your hair done, get a acupuncture treatment at a serious discount, or sleep in, have a little breakfast at the buffet, and you plan yourselves a lovely lunch in one of the specialty restaurants that are having a 50% off deal today because everyone's off the ship. And so maybe you can get a deal on one of the specialty restaurants and have that 5-course lunch and then nibble something at dinner later. Wonderful thought. Christine's saying, that's my plan when I go in November. Experience the ship for my first cruise. Absolutely. Explore that ship, and it's even more enjoyable when you're one of the only ones on it. You might only be 500 people on the ship instead of 3,000. Randy Lucas is saying, we love sea days just to relax. Doing a transatlantic in April with 6 sea days. Also, if in a port you visited before, the ship can be very peaceful. Cabo San Lucas is my example for that. I have no interest in getting off the ship in Cabo because you got to get on a tender. And my wife has gone once, and the second time she didn't bother either. Just stayed on the ship. And I went to the spa. There was nobody there, maybe 3 people on instead of 100. Fantastic. And, had a nibble bite to eat at lunch in the buffet. Nobody there, maybe 10, 20 people here and there. Wonderful. I love it. Yeah, very peaceful, very relaxing. Loved it. And then you see the folks come back at the end of the day. You see these folks come back and they got too much sunshine and they're beet red. They didn't put on any sunscreen, or whatever they put on wore off in the first hour, and they didn't bring that bottle with them. And they got burned. And you see these folks, they're just zombies. They're just like, they're done for. They're in bed early and they're in pain the next day. You do see that too. Christine, just make sure you get back to the boat on time, or they'll leave you behind if you didn't book with the ship. And that is exactly right. And that's why I love, if I'm in San Juan, I know that we got till 5 o'clock. We're leaving the boat at 10. We're going to walk around. We'll be back at 1 because I can't last on my feet for those many hours. Not a chance. So it'll be an easy stroll around the place and then back to the ship. Absolutely. Sylvan is saying, all of you tourists, get off my ship. Get off. I need the bartender all to myself to prepare me the drink the way I like it. I know my wife loves to be on pool deck when everyone's off the ship. I mean, geez, the waiters have got nothing to do but, wait on her hand and fist. I mean, whatever you want, lady, I'm here. They got nothing to do. It's fantastic. There is no karaoke nonsense. There's no belly flop contest. It's quiet on that pool deck on those days where everyone is off the ship. It's fantastic. And if you want to go to the top of the ship and shoot some baskets in the basketball thing, if that's you're young enough to want to do that, knock yourself out, or play some mini golf on the mini golf course. There'll be nobody there to bother you. There'll be, there might be one or two other people there, period, and it's all yours. Yeah, it's a great way to enjoy an $800 million vessel unto yourself. It's pretty darn nice. Very good. On those sea days, there's so much you can do on a sea day. One of the things I enjoyed doing on was my first cruise I was on. They had a slot tournament at the casino because you're in international waters. The casino's open, and from 2 to 4 in the afternoon, they have a slot tournament. It costs you $10 or $20 to enter this thing, and first prize is $500. Second prize is $100, and third prize is a dinner for two at a specialty restaurant, something like that. Well, that's great. A great way to kill some time and, do that for a while. Do the spa either before or after that. The walk around the promenade deck and get some fresh air and watch the ship do its thing through the water. It's wonderful. But if you're into bingo, they got bingo up there. If you're into listening to someone talk about, you have no idea what kind of speakers they have on board. They have speakers on board all the time, different subjects. Someday they might have a guy who's talking about his YouTube channel on a cruise ship, telling the world how he got started in August in Creston, BC. And the next thing you know, he's on a cruise ship telling people how he started his YouTube channel because he's doing this get-together cruise with his meet and greet with his followers on a cruise ship. You never know. Anything is possible on a cruise. You just can't tell. Anyways, yeah, sea days are a great time to see stuff. Enjoy wine tasting sessions. Meet and greet with the captain. That sometimes the captain will come on a select day. There'll be an hour where he'll be in the main showroom on the stage. You'll meet the other first officers. They'll introduce themselves to you, open the floor to questions, and you can hear some interesting tales of the sea from the captain and the first officers and the cruise director. And there's so much to see and do. It's never ending. And if you just want to be alone for a while, head to your balcony on your ship, read a book, and watch the sea go by and enjoy your likely and warm, sunny weather. So you're going to enjoy it. It's a great way to go. You just can't beat it. Group cruise, Christina's saying. Group cruise. This is what we got to talk about. Another question for you guys today. I did this at the end of my first telecast, but I'll do it now at this one. If you had the opportunity to work on a cruise ship and you were now, say, 25, 30 years old, and you've gone to school and you wanted to get into the cruise life, is there a job on the cruise ship that you would love to have tried, that you'd love to have, that you thought you might have enjoyed, think you might be good at? Are there any mariners out there that would have gone for the operation of the ship, or anyone would have been an engineer, or would anyone been a cruise director? Anybody out there would have been a hotel manager? Be kind of curious to know. Also, what job wouldn't you want? And I'm talking about the crew, not the folks downstairs in the lower end of the ship, but I'm talking about, is there any job that the crew, that you've seen some of these crew people have that you wouldn't want no matter what? Thank you. No. Kind of curious to see what your thoughts are on that. I've always thought a cruise director would be a kind of an interesting job. You're kind of up all the time and you're full of, life and action, and you got to keep it going. Don't know if I'd want to be a doctor on board a cruise ship, but then I don't know if I'd ever want to be a doctor. I think that's the answer right there. Being a bartender on the ship could be an interesting gig if you're dealing with passengers, perhaps. You're just dealing with the wait staff. I don't know if that'd be much fun. Being a navigation officer, that could be a bit of a gig, I suppose. Operations chief, that type of thing, or hotel manager. That would be an interesting job. You're managing a hotel that moves from port to port to port, different countries, a lot of paperwork, a lot of customs and immigration issues, and you name it. And then, if you're in charge of 1,500 staff from 20 different countries, wow, that's a job. There probably are times where you're firing people mid ship, mid cruise. You're letting people go. Maybe not so much fun. A bit of stress. It'd be an interesting career, wouldn't it? I mean, it would be a whole lot different than just a hotel manager say, at a Westin in Cincinnati. Not that that is a bad job. It's probably a pretty good gig if you're in a large upscale hotel. It'd be a pretty interesting gig. But being on a cruise ship, doing that and more, sourcing things for the kitchen department, for downstairs, looking for any supplies that you need, or dealing with emergencies. That would be quite an interesting life, I would think, and you'd be able to write a book about it, I'm sure. Christine saying, I've seen too many documentaries where passengers freak out because excursions or ports are canceled, bags lost, etc. I've washed dishes and cleaned clothes for 30 years. No, thanks. Yes, I agree with that. I don't think I'd want to be on the help desk. I think I'd have a tough time with that one. How often are people coming up going, I'm having a great time. I love you guys. Everything you're doing is fantastic. I couldn't be happier. Never. It's where's this, where's that, and oh, by the way, I'm really pissed off with my room and I'm not happy. And if you're working on the MSCC side, you're really not going to want to be on the help desk. You're just begging the captain to get you off of that help desk and let you do work. Let me work in the laundry room. I'll get away from these people who are so upset. Oh, the MSCC side. The nightmares continue. Unbelievable. Charles Jordan, radar officer. Well, that could be an interesting gig. Soulful Music 100. Thrilled to hear Richard Branson is getting involved in the cruise business. Competition will be good for the cruiser. Yes, but I'm told that the Virgin Cruise Line, adult only, 18 and over. So Royal Caribbean has nothing to worry about. Maybe Celebrity does, but I don't think Celebrity will either, because Richard Branson's demographic, I think, will be in that 35, well, maybe younger, maybe 25 to 55 group. If his line is perceived to be an adult-only fun kind of cruise with a lot of activities available. On the other hand, if his line is going after the Viking ocean line area, which mirrors the Viking River cruise, where it's basically no children and it's average age of over 60, even 65 average age of passenger. If Richard Branson's going for that, he's in direct competition with those guys. He'll then be in direct competition with Seabourn, Region 7 Seas, and a few other lines of the higher caliber. But hey, Richard Branson has beaten the odds before, beaten all kinds of odds in every area he's been in, and been very successful at it. So you don't want to put it past him. So we'll have to see. It'll be a most interesting thing to watch for Soulful Music. I'm quite looking forward to it. Peter Heckema saying, I would be the official wine taster. Yes. How's the wine? I'll get back to you on that when I finish this bottle. I'll tell you how good that wine was. Yes, sir. Charles Jordan, laugh out loud. Peter Scott Batchley, official food taster. Wes Morrison would love to work in the sound booth in the theater. That'd be kind of cool. Operating the sound booth or operating the lighting system, handling electronics for the karaoke bar and the piano bar, and all those logistics. Pretty busy gig, I gotta say. Lots of different events going on all the time. Heather Young, laugh out loud, Peter. Crystal Johnson, good night. Mr. Bruce, we'll be back tomorrow. See you, Crystal. Have a good night in the Caymans. Nice to have you back. Soulful Music, I knocked 10 years of my age when cruising. 10 years of Well, cruise can revitalize. There's no doubt about that. I swear, I get more walking in when I'm on a 1-week cruise or a 10-day cruise. I get more walking in on a cruise ship than when I'm at home, because I love walking that promenade deck in the morning. I love walking it in the afternoon. I like getting out there in the evenings. I think it's fantastic. And doing a loop around the ship or two, man, it's fantastic. And I love also doing the walk around on the top of the ship, the sort of that level up, way up high. That's sort of protected by the glass sort of hanging over the edge, and you're protected from the wind because they have windbreakers all along. And love the views from up there and going for the stroll, but I really love the promenade deck. I got a ton of walk time in, and I figured, hey, the more walking I can do, the dessert bar is open for business. Thank you very much. And where's that ice cream machine? and let's get myself a little bit of a little Sunday or something. Nothing wrong with that. That to me is a perfect the perfect complement to the ship. Of course, going on shore, whatever your activity level is, I'm not one for zip lines or very active onshore activities. Love to walk around and look around and be a people watcher. That'd be fine by me. I'm quite happy with that. Charles Jordan is saying, no way would I want to deal with the public again. I've had too much experience dealing with the public and in customer service. There you go. And then Scott Batch is saying, I tend to walk all day on a cruise. So there you go. We've got 21 thumbs ups, 1 thumbs down. Thank you, everybody, for the continued support on the thumbs ups. Any of you out there want to give me one tonight? I'd love to get them. These thumbs ups go a long way towards exposing the channel to the YouTube analytic computers. They register activity, interaction. This interactivity here that you're doing with me now on these messages are also helping. I don't know if I mentioned it. I don't think I mentioned it tonight. I did mention it today, but I don't know if I've mentioned this. There's been a change announced on YouTube, an upgrade on the live stream that we're on here. YouTube is going to have, when I post my videos going forward, I don't know if it's today's, I don't think it's happened yet, but it might be in the next few days, next week. Going forward, all the comments that you folks are making with me will actually be readable by folks who are watching after hours. So if you miss one of my broadcasts and you're a regular, you watch a rerun of this broadcast or future broadcast, not in the not too distant future, you'll be able to see what everyone was saying that you normally are conversing with me in the after hours. I think that's a wonderful thing. I think it's a great idea. I'm glad it's happened. I know there is software out there that I can download where I can do what's called the overlay, a transparent overlay, and have the wording of the live stream texting put in. But I'm honestly, I don't want to say I'm too lazy, but I'm just overwhelmed with what I'm doing now. I just don't want to learn that much more. I want to perfect what I'm trying to do now between Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, Patreon, YouTube. I just didn't want to go into this other thing and figure out all that and the software changes. I had to have learned a bit of all kinds of directions. I've been watching videos on how to do it, and it just doesn't give me headaches, but it just makes me go, oh, I can't do that. But now YouTube has made it easy for me, apparently. They're announcing that these live streams will have the text showing in the reruns automatically, and I couldn't be happier. Thank you, YouTube, very much for that. That's really great news. Just monetize me, please. Just give me my commercial time back and let me make some money on that, because I'm just down to super chat, and that's all I've got. So that would be great. Scott Batchy saying, I tend to walk all day on a cruise. Christine, amen, Charles. Charles Jordan, Christine, you know it. Charles Jordan saying 27 thumbs up. Hey, we're bumped it up. Fantastic. Appreciate all I can get, and we'll take them from there. You betcha. Yeah. So that is the question of the day I had there. The last thing I'll mention tonight was I was looking up a sort of a chart. It was on Wikipedia actually, and it listed the world's largest passenger cruise ships. And I think it listed the top 50, and then it listed ships that are coming. And I always love reading stuff like this. But as I was looking it over, it occurred to me that 9 of the largest 13 cruise ships, 9 of the 13 largest are owned by Royal Caribbean. And on the one hand, Royal Caribbean is proud of that, of course, because it's it's what they're known for. Big, action-packed cruise ships with lots of features and amenities and variety and so on, and I agree with that. But then it also occurred to me that the downside of operating very large cruise ships is that these ships are actually quite limited to where they can go on scheduled runs, and that had me thinking that of course they're set up in Fort Lauderdale, I believe Miami as well. The ports and the piers are all designed to now handle this size vessel. They've had years to build them out and perfect it. Royal Caribbean has done a masterful job in the embarkation and debarkation process at the beginning and end of each cruise. It's run with military precision, and it works very well. And a lot of analysts out there were surprised that you can board a 5,500 passenger cruise ship as quickly, if not faster, than a 2,100 passenger cruise ship. Very, very good. But it does limit the ship's ability to go to different ports. And this is where I'm kind of wondering, guys, you're doing Labadee, Haiti a lot. You're doing St. Thomas a lot, Saint Martin a lot, and San Juan in Puerto Rico. But there are other places that, there's certain ports you just can't go into. You're just too large, unless you want to do tendering at each one that you want to go to. The other issue is you can't start and end cruises at very many other places either. You could do a round the world cruise, I suppose, but you're going to have to pick your ports very carefully where around the world you would stop at, because there'll be some cities you can't get in there. The ship will be too long or too wide to handle, or the harbor master just won't allow that vessel in there at that size. And then I thought about the provisions, about supplies, bringing supplies in to the ship for the next week or so. If you're starting and ending your cruise in Fort Lauderdale, you're set up for it. You're good to go. But if you wanted to do a 60-day trip that sort of took you from Florida to the Mediterranean, up through Northern Europe, and then all the way back to Fort Lauderdale again, that's a cruise that will have interesting logistical issues along the way that you're going to have to deal with, because the ships are just that much larger than the next type of ship. And I thought about that and went, that was one concern. And then the other thought I had about it was the last time the cruise business had a downturn in business was in 2009, when we had the economic meltdown. That's when, from 08 to 10, 11, 12, numbers were off. And there were a lot of cruises canceled because people got wiped out or got heavily damaged by the housing market, their stock investments, and that kind of thing. We haven't had one like that since, of that severity. We also really haven't had a recession since either. And the wondering is, with economists, well, are we due for one? The Trump administration passed the tax cuts. That's kept the stock market going. Profits are looking good for corporations going forward for the next little while. But will this eventually peter out in a year? And will the good times have been had? And now we're back to reality. And the reality is, are you making more money this year than last year? And you had your artificial boost with the tax cuts. There is no artificial boost next time around. Inflation may be at 2 to 4 to 5% now, and pricing might not be there to raise rates and prices across the board, which means there might be a bit of an economic pullback, even a mild recession. And what happens to cruise lines when that happens? Well, I can see with, say, Norwegian or Carnival, most cruise lines, if you've got older ships that are 25, 30 years old, you can just take them off and bring them in for early dry dock or extended dry dock, or you can sell them. You just sell them off to secondary lines, and you reduce your capacity, or you reduce the growth of your capacity. But if you're Royal Caribbean, and 9 of the world's 13 largest ships, soon to be 10 with the Symphony of the Seas, are of that size, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 passengers each, you can't take them offline. That can't be done, because these ships were built all within the last 8 to 10 years. They're all 800 million to 1.3 billion each, and they're financed for 20 to 30 years apiece. And you can't take an 8-year-old ship and bring it offline. You got to keep it running. Well, okay, you keep it running, but if you run it at 80% capacity, because the market just isn't there to sell out, or you run it at 60% capacity at a very good rate, good fare, a good room rate, but the remaining 40% you're flooding the market with $399 cruise deals. You're going to hurt your brand badly, and you're going to find that a whole bunch of your ships are just going to be empty anyway, because if someone feels economically pinched, whether it's $6.99 or $4.99, that might not be good enough to get them to go, because they're too afraid to even spend $4.99, and they're afraid of the other charges that are hidden that they might run into when they're on the ship. It makes you wonder if with a 6,000 passenger ship, every week you need 6,000 passengers to come on that ship to keep that ship fully occupied. And if you have a 4% pullback in the industry as a whole, and these larger ships pull back more, the smaller ships pull back less because they just lose fewer passengers. Makes you wonder if a company like Royal Caribbean might be in too deep into too many of these larger ships. But look, Norwegian's got 5,000 passenger ships. Carnival is now building 4,000 passenger Carnival ships. Disney has 3 or 4 ships on order, 4,000 passenger capacity each. Aida cruising with those 3 liquid natural gas ships, 5,200, 5,500 passengers each. MSC has 6,000 passenger ships on order. 6,000, size of Royal Caribbean. So there will come a time within 5-7 years, there may be 20 to 30 ships out there on the high seas with 5,000 or more capacity as a standard deal. And now in that 5-10 year window, if there's a harder, more severe recession, what happens? Can Royal Caribbean, in just their case alone, can they bring in 6,000 passengers a week, 52 weeks a year, for 5 or 6 or 7 or 9 ships at a time? That's 45, 50,000 passengers a week for full occupancy. Or will they be down 10% and have a 90% occupancy rate, and the ships might break even, might barely make any money? These are thoughts, again, on these larger style ships. The ships like Viking Ocean Cruises, you have 930 passengers. It's a $500-600 million build. Your average age is 65. You're not talking about folks that are necessarily affected by a recession. They would be affected by an absolute meltdown, an economic, catastrophic financial meltdown like 2008. No one is immune to that, except for the ultra rich, which would not going to be on a cruise ship either. They have their own yachts. But for Viking, the odds are that a downturn in the economy probably won't bite into them all that much. They'll still pretty well sell out, even if they threw $100 credit, $200 credit, room credit on the deal. That'll probably fill the ship up. 930 a week is all they have to fill the ship up with. They don't have to go after 5,000-6,000 passengers. Families with children will be the first ones to pull back. The younger family, mothers and fathers with younger kids, 35, 45-year-old adults, they'll be the first ones to pull back because they're carrying too many debts and too many other payments. The cruise is one of the first luxuries to go. So it'll be interesting to see how this all this goes as we go forward. Just my thoughts today. No, with nothing on the horizon suggesting that anything is happening that's going negative, but we'll have to see where where this goes. What are we going to say here? Soul of Music saying, have to say the new terminal for MSC Seaside is fantastic in Miami. I think it'll cost $37 million. Wow. That's I think the 15th largest ship in the world, the Seaside. It's big. It's 5,000 passengers and a lot of crew. But it's just unfortunate that they've run into the problems that they've run into. It's really disappointing how badly it's worked out so far. Not a good launch. The second ship is coming up pretty quick. It'll be ready not too long from now. They're going to launch it in the Mediterranean. And won't it be interesting? Won't it be interesting if the sister ship to the Seaside has the same engineering problems in the Mediterranean? They'll have passengers that are used to the European cruise experience. So the European tastes for the food, the entertainment will likely be okay on MSC in the Mediterranean. The opera music that that all the operas are being performed. But the logistics. What if they have that poop smell on that ship? What if they have those problems? That is going to be a nightmare for MSC now in two destinations: the Mediterranean cruise area and the Mediterranean cruise area, Caribbean and Mediterranean. That could be a real nightmare for these guys. So if I were MSC management, I would be lying awake at night wondering what is happening with the second ship with respect to its engineering compared to the Seaside, which has been a nightmare so far for engineering. I did note today, I saw a cruise today on vacationstogo.com for the Seaside. Inside room, $420 for a week, $60 a night. Brand new cruise ship. When the Allure of the Seas was a brand new cruise ship for Caribbean cruises, inside rooms were $600-700 for the first year. You couldn't get in there for under $600. Balconies were $1,000 to $1,200 for the first year on the Allure and the Oasis of the Seas. Whereas the MSC Seaside, you can get a balcony right now for $650. They're giving them away, and there's a reason for that. We've heard the reason for that. It's just unbelievable. Final thing I'll close on today is speaking of vacationstogo.com, I did note today, I noticed some pricing for repositioning cruises. I can't show you this on the camera. It won't pick up, but I can read these to you. I saw some cruise pricing for repositioning cruises that look pretty darn appealing. For any of you out there who are thinking of going to cruise in March or April to Europe, boy, you've got some deals here. To give you an idea, on April 22nd, you can go on a 14-night cruise, Miami to Southampton in London, on the Norwegian Breakaway, relatively new ship. Balcony, $785. If you're a shareholder of Norwegian Cruise Lines, you would get a $250 credit against that cruise, a cabin credit. So that's $125 a person. So that brings that $785 down to $680 for 14 days. That's a pretty good price for a cruise. New York to London on April the 15th on Norwegian Breakaway, $785. Same thing. You'd get about probably a $200 credit on that. 15-day cruise, Fort Lauderdale to Barcelona on Holland America Oosterdam. Fantastic ship. My first ever ship that I took a cruise on. That one is $833. And if you're a shareholder of Carnival, you'll get a $200, at least a $200 credit, maybe $250 off the for a cabin credit. I'm not sure if these already have cabin credits, but if they do, this is additional. The next cruise, that's a deal, 14 nights. Fort Lauderdale to Rome on Holland America Koningsdam. It's a new ship, $880. Fantastic, 440 a week. And a couple more here. 15-day trip, Tokyo to Vancouver on the Celebrity Millennium, $980. Again, if you're a Royal Caribbean shareholder, you'll get the credit. You'll get at least $200 off of that one, probably $250 actually, room credit. And then the last couple I have here, Fort Lauderdale to Barcelona, 14 nights, April 3rd departure on Princess, on the Crown Princess ship, $1,115 less your $250 credit. And then the last one, 14 nights, Fort Lauderdale to Rome, Celebrity Reflection. That would be a nice ship to be on for 14 nights, $1,149 with a $250 room credit available as a shareholder discount. Those are some nice repositioning cruises that would be, well worth your while to investigate. Some of these, you get one as low as $680 for 2 weeks, $340 a week, 5-star dining. You'll eat more than that. They'll lose money on you. They will lose money on you, and they will pray that you'll hit the casino, or you'll hit the spa, or you're a drinker. They're going to be desperate for any of those and hoping that you're going to hit them up on any of those. But you got a credit from the shareholder credit, if you play it that way, to help with the drink card and help with some internet and help with some tip money. And anyway, That's a cheap way to cruise all the way to Europe for 14 days and a relaxing way to do it on a first-class ship. Nothing wrong with that. Folks, I hope you've enjoyed my first ever prime time show here at 8 o'clock Eastern. It's now 9:18. I think we're going to wrap this up. I've really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed some of the comments that you gave me today, and hopefully we'll grow this channel a little bit more. I'm going to do another prime time this Thursday, 2 days, day after tomorrow at 8 o'clock Eastern. And spread the word. If you know anyone that might enjoy it, let them know. Bruce is on at 8 o'clock. I'm letting everyone know. Tomorrow, I'll be on at 5 o'clock Eastern with my single show, as usual, and look forward to seeing a bunch of you folks there if you can make it. And if you can't, I'll catch you on Thursday. And, of course, Saturdays, 2 o'clock Eastern time, I'm on. Thank you for the super chat today. Appreciate that. Donation to my pitiful cause. Crossing my fingers that I monetize sooner rather than later. Really was praying that today would be the day that I would just get an email saying, it's all good, Bruce. We've checked you out. You're fine. Yeah, you were fine before. You're even finer now. You're finer than Carolina. I don't even know how that goes. But yeah, didn't happen. We'll see maybe tomorrow. Every day, another adventure. Thank you all for joining me today. Christine, have a great night. Thanks for the thumbs up. Thanks for your thumbs ups today, by the way, guys. Looks like 26 came in on the upside, 1 on the downside. And I appreciate all of that. Appreciate all your comments. And it'll be interesting to see when these comments will be posted on the replay so that people can just read them as I've been reading them to you. I'm looking forward to that. The Soulful Music, you take good care of yourself. Charles, you take care. Scott Batchley, we'll see you. Heather Young, thank you. Crystal Johnson's already gone, but thanks. Wes, thanks, buddy. Scott Batchley, Peter Heckema. Who else was here today? Christine, Sylvan Forrest. Thanks, Sylvan, as always. You're great. Randy Lucas. Thanks, Randy. Let's see. Anyone else was here today? I'm just going back and back. Ian Spencer. Christine, thank you for the donation. Joshua, thank you for the donation. I need it, and I'll appreciate it. Jorge Padron was here today. Thanks, Jorge, for having come by today. It was great to have you. Gina Wells-Holtz, thanks, Gina. George, as always, George McCrower, thanks, buddy. Pamela Jordan, thank you. Anne-Marie Pazarati, thanks so much for coming by. And Joshua Watson and Wes Morrison, of course, at the beginning. That is it. I'm going to say my good nights. Last check on the end there. Same one saying goodbye. We'll see you tomorrow. This is Bruce with Traveling with Bruce, saying thanks for joining me today on my first ever primetime broadcast. I'll be on tomorrow at 5 o'clock Eastern. I'd like to see you then if you can pop by, and we'll see you next time. Okay, have a good night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.